Hey guys, Ash here coming at you today talking about the blog that was posted today referencing the balance update that's coming in Clash of Clans. Specifically, we're going to really be focusing and taking a deep dive into this healer nerf, this Queen Walk nerf, and I want to talk about why I'm still opposed to it, but in my usual format, I do want to try to cover both sides of the debate, I guess you can call it. There are a lot of forum posts like this one popping up, which I definitely disagree with, however well written it may be. But basically what I want to do in today's episode is, by the way, just a disclaimer here, it will be a long video because I'm really gonna, like I said, take a deep dive into these Queen Walks, and I really just want to do the subject justice. So the format of today's episode, while you watch this raid, so I'm going to give you a quick disclaimer about my opinions and whatnot, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the timeline behind the healer nerfs and buffs over the last 2 years. We're also going to go ahead and take a look at the actual blog post from the developers on the Clash team today, and I want to take that point by point and say where I agree and where I disagree, and give my reasons for both sides. And after that, we want to kind of get into why I don't like the changes overall, and then I want to go ahead and look towards the future, speculate on how this will change strategy, and why there's not a huge reason to panic too much, and why it's still okay to be unhappy at the same time. So that's going to be the format of today's video, so let me start with that quick disclaimer. So if you haven't caught the video I did on both balancing, which was about a week old now, maybe a week or two old, and the video that I put out yesterday, and you have extra time on your hands, and you like to have the complete story in order, you might want to go ahead and watch those videos first. I give my quick reaction to the balance changes in yesterday's video, and previous to that, I give my suggestions for how to effectively balance the game, especially at Town Hall 9, 10, and 11. So check those out if you like your story in order. If you already have, or if you don't mind hopping right into things as they stand today, then by all means continue listening and watching. So quick disclaimer, about 1% negative feedback on my video yesterday, probably actually even less than that if you look at the like-dislike, ratio, I guess, if that even means anything, I have no idea. But basically, the vocal minority who have a problem with me having a problem with these balance changes, they generally cite one of a few reasons why they don't like that I don't like this. And one is, Ash, who are you to dictate the direction of the game? That's one opinion that people have. They get kind of mad when I express my opinion pretty vocally, as if I'm demanding these changes from the dev team. And that's just not the case at all. One of the principles of my channel, this might be the first video you ever watched of mine. If so, welcome aboard. But if it's not, you probably know this already, that what I love about this game, one of the things I love about this game, and one of the biggest reasons I started a YouTube channel, and it's just me, it's just my personality, it's just something I like doing. It's not for everybody, and it's certainly not for every content creator as well, but I love current events and talking about the game that I'm so passionate about. So this is the forum I've created to do that and chat with you guys, and I love hearing your opinions, whether you agree or disagree with me, so by all means, continue to share your opinions, and I'm certainly going to continue to share mine. Of course, so I have a lot of opinions, and most of the time, they're pretty positive. I'm a pretty positive guy. I think I have a reputation of sometimes being too positive about the game direction, but this time I'm negative, and that's just the way it is. I still love the game, and I'm still going to continue playing, and I'm definitely going to adapt. That's another thing. A lot of people in the forums say, adapt or quit, if anybody has an opinion that's against what Supercell is doing to the game. And I have to say, that's kind of condescending and a little bit ridiculous. I mean, we as players are allowed to disagree with changes made in the game. I mean, I'm not demanding them to do anything, and like I said, I'm going to continue playing, but to say adapt or quit, I mean, to me, that's kind of a sad thing to say, given how many millions of people have already quit the game over the last year. We don't want more people to quit. We want to adapt together and grow together in the right direction. That's what we want to do. Anyway, let's get into the actual video. That was a pretty long preamble there. So I mentioned we're going to take a deep dive, and this is the start of that dive together. What we're going to do is look at a brief history of the healer in Clash of Clans. Well, I shouldn't say brief. We're going to look at a pretty full and complete history of the healer, and it starts with today's update, or yesterday's update, regarding the balancing. So in yesterday's update, the cannons get stronger, so that's a nerf, an indirect nerf on Queen Walk, and also the obviously the queens are now triggering air traps, so that's another direct nerf onto queen walk and healers in general. And then we move along here. I've already looked at this once by myself before I recorded, just to make sure I actually have this right, because I was kind of astounded by this. There is a method to my madness here, by the way. We're not just doing this for no reason. There will be an overall point that I'm trying to make here. So this update, you can see we have a new cannon level. So that was the previous update to that. Now, moving along here, you can see page 2, just encouraging fair play, regular posts here, balancing, maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. We go to the bowler update way back in March now, and you can see the bowler update here. There's, if you scroll down, you can see there's a new Inferno Tower level, which is no major effect, obviously, on queen walks or on healers. You can see all the rest of the buffs and whatnot, and you can see the X-Bow level 2 to 4 damage increase. That is also a pretty indirect but direct nerf onto queen walks, because the X-Bow is the main defense that you want, targeting the queen as she makes her way around the perimeter of the base, and certainly an X-Bow on air can retarget onto healers as well. That was definitely an indirect shot at healers and queen walks. Then we move on to the previous update to that, the treasury update. You can see there, no buffs to healers at all. Nothing to be seen in terms of buffing the queen walk. We're moving on and on and on here on the throughout the entire announcement forum of the section here. And look at this, guys. We're already at the infamous Town Hall 11 update about 9 months ago now, and you can see more indirect nerfs to queen walks. Obviously, we have an additional X-Bow, we have an additional cannon, additional archer tower, and you can see right here there's quite a bit indirectly nerfing queen walks, and you can see here there's no buffs to healers, there's no changes in the healer relationship with ground troops or air troops or anything. Look at this here. Large amounts of healers have reduced effectiveness on the same unit. That was a nerf. Now the second direct nerf to queen walks. Again, you can't stack more than 4 healers onto your queen walk or a bowler walk or anything like that. Obviously, I think that was before even bowlers were introduced, so obviously that didn't exist yet. But basically, the healer relationship got another nerf there. So we're still moving on here, guys. We're still moving back in time in the Clash update archives. Again, there is an overall point here coming, I promise. Now we've moved all the way back to right after the Dark Spell update. The Dark Spell update, this is a long time ago. You can see here no buffs or reworking of any healer mechanics mentioned at all. Optional update, nothing to see here. Let's go back. My device is going to die. We don't want that, but we're almost there, guys. I swear we're almost there. Now let's go to the actual Dark Spell Factory update over a year ago, well over a year ago. And you can see here, nothing added to buff healer relationships at all. But in fact, we have a second air sweeper added to the maps on this date. So we have 2 air sweepers to navigate, and obviously air sweepers don't generally dramatically affect a queen walk, but sometimes they can. And that was it. No other healer are touched at all here. Obviously, just more defensive buffs, which indirectly nerf healers again, in queen walk again. So we're still going, guys. This is the very first air sweeper update when Supercell initially added the air sweeper defense to the game. This is actually kind of fun to look back and see how long it's been since we've got these additions to the game. And you can see here again, no buffs, no mention of healers anywhere to be found. And we are still moving along, guys, moving along. And finally, we have to go to the introduction of clan perks back in February of 2015. Almost 2014 here, to see finally the healers no longer trigger air traps update. That was the only buff to healers over the last year in 8 months or whatever it's been. It's been a while. So that is almost all of the relationship with the healer in terms of buffs and nerfs over the last year and 9 months, guys. Minus one big thing here. As you can see, we're moving on to the blog post that was released today by the development team. But there's one big thing that I totally missed there. I'm not sure how I glossed over it in the forums, but they reduced the time from 3.5 minutes to 3 minutes, and that was also a really big hit to queen walks. So let's go over this whole blog post today. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but there's one special section I really want to focus on. You can see they do a queen walk forecast, they do a bowler forecast. Essentially what they're doing in the queen walk forecast and bowling forecast is saying that we can just add a 5th healer. It might not be that bad of a nerf to the queen walks. We can just add an extra healer to help mitigate the risk by those air bombs, and the bowling forecast really explains how one of the major reasons they did this entire nerf to begin with was to prevent people from stacking 5 or 6 healers onto a bunch of bowlers and allowing, 100 troop space worth of bowlers to remain at full health at the end of the raid. So I think those points are definitely well received in terms of the effect that healers had on mass attacks, so certainly that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty much what everybody knew as soon as we saw these changes, that was how they were choosing to nerf mass attacks by affecting the healers. But what I really want to focus on this blog post is this paragraph right here, the risk versus reward section. And these are important, guys. This is really what doesn't square well with me, and I do want to talk about this. So I'm going to put on some raids in the background, and I'm just going to read this quickly verbatim, and then we'll discuss why it doesn't make sense to me. So, risk versus reward. Healers have long been a difficult unit to balance in terms of risk versus reward. In the past, ground armies reliant on healer support were far too risky. Healers were prone to getting fixated on isolated troops or wandering needlessly around the enemy village and getting shot down. To top it off, wandering healers triggered air traps, which could spell instant doom. They were far too risky, and thus their usage was extremely low. Since that time, we've made several changes to help make healer usage less risky and more rewarding. We made healers not trigger traps, and later did several improvements to healer AI to make her less prone to wandering and better at sticking to the troops that need her. Now we find ourselves with the opposite problem. In the hands of a skilled attacker, it is not uncommon for a group of healers to survive the entire battle. Hidden behind the Archer Queen and groups of bowlers, healers have become far too safe. And that is the conclusion of that paragraph in the blog post. I'll go ahead and link it if you want to read the entire thing as well at your own pace in the description below. So there's a lot of issues I take with that little portion of the blog post, and I guess one of them is just the overall tone of that part of the blog post. To me, it really kind of makes the reader who maybe isn't as keenly aware as we all are now of the entire last history of a year in 9 months or 10 months now of healers, it really makes it seem like once upon a time, healers sucked. And then we made them so incredibly good that now they're way too safe in the hands of a skilled attacker, which kind of leaves me scratching my head. But so that doesn't square up with the facts that we just, spent 4 minutes going through, right? There were not all these buffs to queen walks. In fact, if we make an invisible pro and con or buff and nerf category to queen walks over the last over a year and a half, in the pro column, in the buff column, we have they were given the ability, as we just discovered, way back in the day, way before Air Sweeper, they were given the ability to actually not trigger traps. That's basically the advent of queen walks. If you look at the timeline there, about a year and 9 months ago, queen walks were invented, right? Now, since then, they've done a number of different nerfs. Just to name a few, we went through a lot of these already, but to name a few, Town Hall 11 with all the new defenses, a new cannon, a new archer tower, new point defense, new expo damage increased, cannon damage increased this update right now. We have the stacking healers does not pay good dividends or see any investment on the return when you start getting over 4 healers. There is now the 3.5 minutes to 3 minutes. There is the what else is there? The air sweepers have been added to the game since then. We have a new level of archer towers. We have a new level of cannons as well. So there's been a lot of indirect nerfs and a couple direct nerfs to healers in that year plus time, right? So on the pro category, remember guys, on the pro side, all they've added to queen walks, all they've done is made them not trigger traps and made some AI adjustments that we were not aware of. If they did make those, which I assume they did, I don't think they'd lie to us, but we were never aware of these AI adjustments. At least maybe I missed them, and that could very well be a possibility that I did miss them. But all we've had, the fact remains, is that all we've had given to us for these amazing multi-phase opening attacks, which pretty much everybody agrees is a very technical strategy going in the direction that the Clash team wants the game to go, conducted by, in the Clash team's own words, the most skilled attackers in the game. All we've had is a couple AI changes and the ability to not trigger traps added about a year and 9 months ago. Now, this is very important here, and this is one of the cruxes of my argument that we don't need an additional nerf to the Queen Walk or to any sort of healer relationship, and that is that, think about it, guys. You have to take a step back and look at the entire timeline that we've painstakingly reviewed so far in this video. So, in the risk versus reward section, Supercell admits that the healer usage rates were down so incredibly low that that's the reason they initially made them invulnerable to air traps, okay? And that was a year in again, I keep repeating it, but that was almost 2 years ago, okay? So, since then, just take a second and think about all the nerfs they've added to the healers in Queen Walk over the last 2 years, and then think about the putrid usage rates before they gave them the ability not to trigger air traps, and you might be able to finally see where I'm going here. Put that together, and it definitely equals a pretty substantial nerf to Queen Walks. Obviously, can you still do Queen Walks? Of course you can. Is it still going to be a viable attack, especially when farming with Super Queen? Yes, of course it's going to be. You can stack easily 5 or 6 healers on a farming raid. You're not hitting maxed villages necessarily with great solid base designs, so that's not a big deal. Farming, it barely even is affected by these changes. It's more a nerf to the more competitive game. So people who are casual gamers who are making forum posts like this on the screen right now, to me, are just totally missing the point. They don't really have a reason to be either excited or really super upset about these changes. It's more the people who are actually using these Queen Walks in Clan Wars that really should feel this and be affected by this. Will it change the game? Of course it will change the game, especially at the very highest level. A Town Hall 9 can certainly probably still get by with using the Queen Walks with 4 healers only, and in most raids, probably won't see a dramatic effect. Of course, some raids, it might be that difference between that 5% at the end of the raid because you don't have the healer alive, your queen goes down, you just don't have enough time, depending on the circumstance, obviously. And of course, the cannon buff, we don't know how dramatic it's going to be yet because we don't have access to any of the numbers, but either way you look at it, a point damage buff, another point damage buff at Town Hall 9, 10, and 11 will certainly additionally nerf Queen Walks. So before I end this episode, I do want to speculate a little bit on where I think the game might be heading in terms of meta strategy, specifically at Town Hall 10 and Town Hall 11. I really think we're going to end up starting to see a lot of these bowler/miner attacks, so bowlers and miners. It's kind of funny, I actually brought those strategies to you guys when the miner was first introduced to the game, and we kind of abandoned it because the spam attacks were just much easier, but now I think that the attacks still might be starting out with a very brief Queen Walk, and then I think we'll quickly get into a kill squad that will have a few bowlers and then the back end miners, something that would be even more interesting and innovative if we could indeed still Queen Walk as part of those attacks. That would be the sweet spot there. Keep the cannon nerf, maybe even add a giant bomb, extra damage to bowlers, something like that. Heck, you could even reduce the healing ability on a mass number of troops, but with one singular target, aka a queen, it could be the same effect. There's a lot of different options you could do if you really wanted to play with the healers, but for me, the simplest nerf would have been simply to just go ahead and buff those cannons like you did, and then see what happens, see where the pieces fall. I don't think they certainly needed to overreact this much and nerf the queens. It seemed like a last-minute addition. I don't think anybody really knew it was coming, and then all of a sudden it seemed like, hey, why not nerf the healers as well and see how that works. I don't know, it didn't seem incredibly carefully planned to me, but hey guys, that's just me. Again, I still enjoy the game, still love it, I will adapt, just not happy that this is the way they decided to address these spam attacks, when in reality any skilled attacker really does know that when it comes down to it, a Queen Walk, setting the table for a multi-phase attack, is really the most effective ability that a skilled attacker has in his or her arsenal to pull off one of these awesome technical strategic attacks that they say they want to promote. So guys, no matter what the direction of the game heads, I'll be here giving you guys strategy throughout every Town Hall level 8 and beyond. Guys, I hope you enjoyed my take. We've basically taken a very long look at the history of healers, where they were nerfed, where they were buffed. We've been able to examine all the facts. It's up to you guys to decide how you feel about them. I respect everybody's opinions, and be sure to leave them in the comments below, guys. Interested to hear what you guys think of my take on this balancing blog, guys. So let's see what happens. Let's enjoy the game the best we can, and hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed for a bright future in Clash of Clans, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.